Hey everyone, it's me, Elena, and if you're here, maybe you felt that quiet ache, the one where you're always the giver in your family, but never quite the one who belongs. You know the feeling, right? That nagging sense that no matter how much you pour into the relationships around you, you're still standing just outside the circle, looking in. It's exhausting, it's heartbreaking, and for the longest time, it was my everyday reality. But today, I'm pulling back the curtain on my story, not for sympathy or to stir up old wounds, but because I truly believe that sharing these raw, unfiltered experiences can light a path for someone else walking a similar road. Sometimes hearing how another person broke free from the cycle helps you see the cracks in your own walls. So, grab a warm cup of coffee or tea, find a comfy spot on the couch, and let's dive in together. This isn't just a tale of betrayal and awakening. It's about the day I finally stopped being the invisible bank in my family's eyes and stepped into my role as the architect of my own destiny. It all began with what seemed like a harmless email notification. But to truly understand the weight of that moment, we have to rewind the clock and trace the threads back to where the unraveling first started, deep in the heart of my childhood memories. Picture this vividly. I'm just 4 years old. A wide-eyed little girl with messy pigtails and a favorite stuffed rabbit named Hopper, huddled in the shadowy corner of our old Victorian house in Boston. The house itself was like a character in a storybook, tall, narrow rooms with creaky wooden floors that groaned under every step, wallpaper peeling at the edges like secrets trying to escape, and that musty scent of old books and rain-soaked wood. It was a place full of echoes, both literal and emotional. My parents had just returned from the hospital, cradling my newborn little brother, Marcus, in their arms. He was this perfect, tiny bundle of joy, soft curls framing his face, big blue eyes that mirrored Mom's exactly, and that sweet baby scent that filled the room like a promise of new beginnings. I remember tiptoeing over to the crib, my small hands gripping the wooden bars as I pressed my face against them, whispering softly, "Hi, I'm your big sister. We're going to have so many adventures." But as my parents cooed over him, their faces lit up with a joy I'd never seen directed at me. I felt it for the first time, that subtle, gut-wrenching shift. Before Marcus arrived, I was their everything, the adopted miracle they'd prayed for after years of heartache and fertility struggles. They told stories of how they chose me from the orphanage, how I was their special gift. But after his birth, I morphed into the helper, this supporting character in their family narrative. I fetched diapers from the changing table, sang off-key lullabies to soothe his cries, and quickly learned that earning love meant making myself indispensable, even at such a tender age. As the years rolled on, that pattern didn't just linger, it solidified like glue, binding me to a role I didn't even realize I was playing. Mom was the eternal dreamer, flitting from one creative passion to another like a butterfly in a garden of endless flowers. She'd sign up for painting classes, filling a house with canvases splashed in vibrant colors, only to abandon them halfway through when the inspiration faded. Then came the pottery workshops, where she'd come home with lopsided mugs and bowls, beaming with pride before losing interest and stashing them in the attic. Dad, on the other hand, was the steady, quiet anchor, buried deep in his accounting job at a downtown firm, crunching numbers from dawn to dusk, always nodding along to Mom's whims just to maintain the fragile peace in our home. He wasn't one for big emotions. His love showed in small, practical ways, like fixing a leaky faucet or slipping me extra allowance for school supplies. And Marcus? Oh, he was the undisputed golden boy, blessed with that effortless charm that drew people in like moths to a flame. He had Mom's artistic flair and Dad's easygoing nature, but amplified, always the center of attention at family gatherings with his infectious laugh and stories that captivated everyone. By high school, the divide had become crystal clear. I was the straight-A student, the overachiever who juggled advanced classes, extracurriculars, and a part-time job at the local cafe, steaming lattes and wiping counters to squirrel away every penny for college. Marcus, meanwhile, coasted through life on his charisma and untapped potential, skipping homework for pickup basketball games or late-night hangouts with friends. I'd stay up past midnight tutoring him through algebra exams he hadn't studied for, covering for his absences with white lies to our parents, even dipping into my hard-earned savings when he forgot his wallet on dates and needed gas money. "You're the best, Elle," he'd say with that signature grin, clapping me on the back like we were buddies in a heist. And I'd glow inside, my heart swelling with a mix of pride and hope, thinking to myself, this is what family does. We lift each other up, no questions asked. But underneath that glow was a growing undercurrent of resentment I pushed down deep, afraid to acknowledge it. Deep down, though, I knew the truth. I was desperately buying my spot at the family table. The adoption papers legally declared me theirs, but blood ties whispered a different story, where I was always the outsider proving my worth. At dinner tables, Mom would joke lightly, "Marcus gets his creative talent straight from me. Elena is just our little overachiever, always with her nose in a book." Those words stung like paper cuts, small but accumulating over time, but I'd force a laugh, doubling down on my efforts to shine brighter, to be undeniable. By the time I graduated college with a degree in graphic design, summa cum laude no less, and landed a solid remote job at a creative agency, designing logos and websites from my cozy apartment setup, I had become the undisputed safety net for the entire family. Car repairs when Dad's old sedan broke down on the highway? Elena's got it, transferring funds without a second thought. Extravagant holiday gifts that made everyone's eyes light up under the tree? Charged to Elena's card, wrapped with care. And when Marcus, fresh out of his aimless post-high school phase, announced his big, bold dream, a competitive photography internship in the bustling heart of New York City, I didn't even pause to consider the cost. "I'll help you get set up," I said eagerly over a family video call, my voice steady despite the flutter in my stomach. What I really meant, buried beneath the words, was let me prove for once and for all that I'm indispensable, that I belong here, just as much as anyone.
That internship opportunity quickly snowballed into a full-blown whirlwind of excitement and demands. New York City rents are notoriously brutal, a cutthroat market where studios go for eye-watering prices, and Marcus's so-called potential didn't exactly translate to a steady paycheck just yet. He was starting at the bottom, fetching coffees and assisting on shoots for minimal pay. So without hesitation, I stepped up and co-signed his lease on a sleek, modern studio in Brooklyn, the kind with exposed brick walls and high ceilings that screamed urban chic. It cost $3,500 a month, way above what he could afford solo, but hey, it had that raw industrial vibe he adored for curating his Instagram aesthetic, posting moody shots of city lights and coffee runs. I fronted the hefty security deposit straight from my savings account, $7,000 wired over in a single transaction that my bank app flashed a warning about large transfers. Then came the essential gear to kickstart his career. A top-of-the-line DSLR camera with all the bells and whistles, a set of professional lenses for every lighting scenario, and a portable lighting kit for on-the-go shoots, racking up another $4,200 on my credit card. "You need to look the part like a real pro," I told him during one of our late-night planning calls, ignoring the sharp twinge in my gut as I clicked purchase and watched the balance dip. Mom chimed in enthusiastically over our family Zoom sessions. "Elena's our rock, the glue holding us all together. Without her, where would we be right now?" Dad just offered a faint, appreciative smile from the background, but Marcus, he virtually hugged the screen, his eyes sparkling with gratitude. "Sis, you're literally making this dream a reality. I owe you big time. Seriously, name your price." "Oh, me?" I waved it off with a casual laugh, but in my head, this was the ultimate investment, the one that would finally yield the dividends I'd been chasing. A tighter-knit family, genuine appreciation, maybe even a sense of equality. I threw myself into the details, helping him pack boxes of clothes and books, researching the best thrift stores in Brooklyn for affordable furniture that matched his style, even setting up his utility accounts and streaming subscriptions so he could hit the ground running. The total tab by the end? Well over $15,000, a number that stared back at me from my budgeting spreadsheet like a silent accusation. But in the moment, it felt exhilarating, like I was weaving myself deeper into the family's fabric, stitch by stitch. That is, until the celebration threw everything into sharp, painful relief. It was a crisp Saturday morning in early fall. The kind where the air carries a hint of wood smoke and the leaves outside my apartment window were just starting to turn shades of gold and crimson, crunching underfoot on sidewalks. Marcus had landed his first major gig, a coveted photo spread for a trendy lifestyle magazine, capturing urban fashion in the streets of Manhattan. To mark this milestone, Mom organized what she called a New Horizons brunch at an upscale rooftop venue in Boston, perched high above the harbor with panoramic views of sailboats bobbing on the water and the city skyline shimmering in the distance. "It's Marcus's official send-off to the big leagues," she announced in the family group chat, complete with emojis of champagne glasses and airplanes. I replied almost instantly, my fingers flying across the keyboard. "Sounds amazing! Can't wait! What can I bring? Desserts? Drinks?" The response was crickets at first, that awkward digital silence that speaks volumes. Then a private message pinged from Mom. "Oh, honey, it's more of an intimate gathering. Just close friends and immediate family, you know? Your work schedule is so packed anyway, we didn't want to burden you." Busy? I worked remotely from home, my calendar wide open that weekend. The words hit like a cold wave, but I swallowed the rising hurt, rationalizing it away. Maybe it's a surprise party for me too, I thought optimistically. Or perhaps they're saving a special spot, and this is just Mom's way of downplaying it. I spent that morning glued to my phone, scrolling through social media feeds with a mix of anticipation and anxiety, waiting for the first glimpses of the event. By noon, the posts began flooding in like a digital tidal wave. Marcus looking sharp in a tailored blazer, raising a flute of champagne and a toast, Mom beaming radiantly in a flowing floral dress I'd actually helped her select during an online shopping spree a few weeks ago. Dad lifting his glass with a rare, genuine smile. Friends clustered around, laughing under twinkling string lights that draped across the rooftop like stars. The caption on Marcus's post read, "Family and squad sending me off to conquer NYC, feeling all the love. Hashtag grateful, hashtag new chapter." Family. The word jumped out at me, a dagger twist. But there I was, absent from every frame. No tag, no mention, no evidence I even existed in their world. It slammed into me like a physical punch, leaving me breathless on my couch, the room spinning as questions swirled. Why had they left me out? Was I too practical for their glamorous vibe? Too much of a reminder of the gritty bills and logistics behind the shiny surface? The pain didn't just sit there. It built like a gathering storm, dark clouds rolling in as I paced my small apartment, the wooden floors creaking under my frantic steps. Memories replayed in my mind like an unwanted montage. The time Marcus totaled Dad's car during his reckless college phase, and I quietly covered the $1,200 deductible without a word of complaint. Or Mom's lavish art retreat in the Berkshires last year, fully funded by my unexpected freelance bonus, where she returned with tales of inspiration, but no real thanks. They'd expressed gratitude, sure, but always with that subtle undertone. "Alina's so generous, always coming through in a pinch." Generous? Or just desperately clinging to approval? I flipped open my budgeting app on my phone, my fingers trembling as I tallied the figures once more. $15,800 just for Marcus's New York setup, not counting the countless smaller favors over the years. Some cost fallacy. That's what my therapist had labeled it during one of our sessions. The psychological trap where you keep pouring resources into a bottomless pit, hoping against hope that it'll eventually fill up and give back. But were families really like investments with expected returns? Or had I been fooling myself all along, trading my self-worth for scraps of affection? By 1 p.m., the pressure in my chest was unbearable, a vice squeezing tighter with each passing minute. I couldn't just sit there stewing. I grabbed my car keys, my heart pounding like a drum in my ears, and drove toward the rooftop venue, the city streets blurring past in a haze of determination. "I'll just show up unannounced," I told myself, gripping the steering wheel. "Say hi, join the fun, prove once and for all that I'm part of this story." Parking was a nightmare in the bustling downtown area, but I found a spot several blocks away, my legs carrying me forward on autopilot. As I neared the building, the sounds of celebration floated down from above, clinking glasses, upbeat jazz music, bursts of laughter that echoed off the high-rises. I slipped in through a side entrance, blending seamlessly with the crowd of well-dressed guests milling about, my casual jeans and sweater suddenly feeling out of place. There they were, at the center of it all, Mom holding court at the head of a long table adorned with fresh flowers and gourmet spreads, Marcus animatedly gesturing as he recounted his latest shoot adventures, Dad nodding along with quiet approval.
No one spotted me at first, so I hovered near the bar, ordering a fizzy soda to steady my shaking hands, the carbonation bubbling like my nerves. And that's when I heard it, the conversation that would shatter everything. Mom, mid-sip of her orange mimosa, leaned in toward one of her longtime friends, her voice carrying just enough to reach my ears. Marcus is our absolute star. That creative talent runs deep in the blood, straight from my side of the family. The friend glanced around the table curiously. Where's Alana, though? She must be over the moon about all this. Mom waved it off with a dismissive flick of her wrist, her laugh light, but laced with something
Sharper. Oh, she's fine. Probably buried in her computer as usual. Honestly, it's a bit of a relief without her here. She can be so intense, always hovering and expecting something in return for her help. Intense? The word landed like a slap, my chest tightening as if the air had been sucked from the room. Then Marcus jumped in, his voice booming with that casual cruelty masked as humor. Yeah, Elle's basically our personal ATM, super handy for getting things set up, but who wants the bank crashing the party? She'd probably start lecturing us on budgets midway through the toasts. The table erupted in chuckles, a chorus of agreement that made my blood run cold. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes fixed on his plate, but he said nothing, his silence speaking volumes. ATM. The label echoed in my mind, amplifying every sacrifice I'd made. The late nights designing Marcus's photography portfolio for free, tweaking layouts until they were perfect, the scrimped savings I'd funneled into his dreams while denying myself small luxuries like a new laptop or a weekend getaway. All reduced to a punchline, a joke at my expense. I felt utterly invisible, a ghost haunting my own life, used and discarded. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, hot and insistent, but anger surged hotter, a fire igniting in my core. I slipped out the side door before anyone could notice me, the world tilting as I drove home in a tear-streaked blur, the radio static matching the chaos in my head. Back in my apartment, I collapsed on the floor, my back against the wall, sobs racking my body as the full weight crashed down. Why had I allowed this to continue for so long? Those childhood fears of not truly belonging, of being the extra piece in the puzzle because I was adopted, had twisted me into their willing doormat, always stepping up, always hoping, but no more. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, a resolve hardening like steel. Rising to my feet, I opened my laptop on the kitchen table, the screen's glow illuminating my determined expression. It was time to reclaim my power, to draw the line I'd avoided for decades. First on the list, the lease agreement. As the cosigner, I had full access to the online portal, my login credentials still safe from the initial setup. My heart raced, a mix of adrenaline and fear, as I navigated to the dashboard. There it was, the button labeled Revoke Guarantor Status, glowing like a beacon. A pop-up warning flashed. This action will void the agreement immediately and notify all parties. I hesitated for a split second, my fingers hovering over the trackpad as flashes of memories intruded. Marcus's excited phone calls about the apartment's killer views, Mom's effusive praise for my generosity. But then their rooftop laughter replayed in my mind, that damning ATM label. With a deep breath, I clicked. The screen refreshed. Confirmation. Lease voided. Notification sent to tenant. Next up, the credit card I'd linked for his utilities, internet, and that premium camera subscription service he insisted was essential for editing on the go. A few quick navigations through the account settings, and I canceled the authorizations, initiating refunds where possible. Then the return flight I'd booked for his upcoming holiday visit home, canceled with a satisfying booking terminated email. Each click felt like peeling off layers of a heady burden, shedding the weight I'd carried alone for years. By 2 p.m., it was all done. I leaned back in my chair, the apartment's silence buzzing with a strange energy, a mix of liberation and anticipation. Across the city, up on that sun-drenched rooftop, their phones would soon light up with the digital fallout. Chaos was incoming, and for once, I wasn't the one scrambling to fix it. The first notification buzzed on my phone at 2:15, vibrating insistently on the table. It was Marcus. Oh, what the actual F? The lease is canceled? Landlord's blowing up my phone. Call me now. Moments later, Mom chimed in. Alina, honey, there's some kind of glitch with the apartment and flights. Fix it right away, please. Dad remained silent, as expected.
I ignored the barrage, instead rising to brew a pot of herbal tea, the steam rising like a calming ritual as my phone continued to explode with voicemails and texts. The messages escalated quickly, from confused queries like, "Is this a mistake?" to furious demands, "You can't do this to us." After everything we've been through as a family? Everything? Like the years of exploitation they put me through? By 3 p.m., the inevitable arrived. Not a call, but a pounding at my door, frantic and insistent, shaking the frame. I peeked through the peehole. Mom stood front and center, her face flushed and disheveled, her floral dress now wrinkled from the hasty drive. Marcus loomed behind her, panic etched in his features. Dad trailed awkwardly at the rear, looking more resigned than anything. I took a steadying breath and opened the door, my expression calm as a still lake, betraying none of the turmoil inside. "What on earth is this?" Mom burst in immediately, shoving past me into the living room, waving her phone like a weapon. "The landlord just emailed. The apartment's gone. Marcus has to vacate by tomorrow morning or they'll charge penalties." Marcus glared at me, his voice sharp. "You promised to help, Elle. This isn't help. This is straight up sabotage." I crossed my arms, standing my ground in the entryway. "Help family, you mean? But from what I overheard at the brunch, I'm not really family, am I? I'm just the ATM." Their faces drained of color, a collective pallor washing over them. "What are you even talking about?" Mom snapped, her tone defensive. I pulled out my phone slowly, my thumb finding the recording app. I'd captured a quick snippet from the bar on impulse, the audio crystal clear despite the background noise. I hit play and their own voices filled the room. Mom's casual dismissal. "It's a relief without her. She's so intense," followed by Marcus's laugh. "Elle's our personal ATM. Who wants the bank crashing the party?" The playback ended, leaving a heavy silence hanging in the air like smoke. Marcus stammered, That was just a joke, sis. You know how we are." Mom jumped in. "You completely misunderstood. We do appreciate you, Elena." "No," I replied softly, my voice steady and cutting through their excuses like a knife. "I've been paying for a love that was never freely given, chasing approval that was always conditional." Then, in a surprising twist, Dad finally spoke up, his voice low and gravelly. "Elena, I'm so sorry. I should have stepped in years ago, said something when I saw how they treated you." He reached into his jacket pocket and handed me a thick envelope. "These are divorce papers. I'm done enabling this toxicity. It's time for change." Mom gasped audibly, her hand flying to her mouth. Marcus looked utterly shattered, his golden boy facade crumbling. They begged then, promises tumbling out. Therapy, apologies, a fresh start, but it rang hollow, too little, too late. I shook my head gently. "Figure it out yourselves. The bank is closed." With that, I ushered them out and closed the door, the click of the lock echoing my finality. The aftermath unfolded in messy, unpredictable waves, but each one brought a sense of liberation I hadn't known I craved. Marcus ended up crashing on friends' couches in New York, scrambling to find a cheaper shared apartment in a less trendy neighborhood, his dreams tempered by harsh reality for the first time. Mom tried to spin the narrative on social media with vague posts about family hiccups, all good now, but the whispers spread through our extended circle like wildfire, the truth seeping out despite her efforts. Dad followed through, moving into a modest one-bedroom apartment nearby. We started meeting for weekly coffees at a quiet corner cafe, conversing about everything from books to dreams. No more fixes or favors, just genuine connection that felt like a balm on old wounds. As for me, I turned that energy inward, investing in the person I'd neglected for so long. Therapy sessions helped unpack the deep-seated adoption wounds, those lingering fears of abandonment that had driven my overgiving. I booked a solo trip to the misty mountains of Vermont, hiking winding trails where the silence wrapped around me like a warm embrace, not a cold exclusion. My savings account began to rebound, and I launched a side hustle, designing custom graphics for small businesses passionate about their craft, turning my skills into something joyful rather than obligatory. The freedom was intoxicating, a rebirth. Looking back now, that ill-fated brunch wasn't a tragedy. It was my wake-up call, the catalyst that shattered the illusion. Families aren't transaction ledgers where you earn love through endless deposits. They're meant to be gardens of mutual growth, not one-sided drains.
If you're pouring your heart and resources into people who only take, leaving you empty, it's more than okay to close the tap and redirect that flow to yourself. You are inherently worthy, just as you are. No proofs required. If this story hits home for you, resonates in that quiet corner of your soul, drop a like below, share your own experiences in the comments. We're all in this journey together. Let's lift each other up, build communities of real support. Until next time, remember, take care of your heart first. It's the only one you've got.